radio person, so there'll be no PowerPoint. You'll have to concentrate on my voice. I was a former producer with Delhi University Community Radio Station. Anybody in Delhi University here? Can you tell me where is the radio station? So that's what I'm talking about. So we're talking about that, it's not there. So the thing is that I'm going to talk about the role of debate as a catalyst for social change with using a very effective tool of development communication, which is a community radio. So I'll just begin by introducing what exactly is a community radio. It's contrary to the concept of broadcast, and it believes in narrowcasting, which means a community radio station is, we might call it a local or a radio station which believes in narrowcasting, and the frequency is within 10 to 12 kilometers of the radius from where the radio station is placed. So, could you tell me the areas near Delhi University? 10 to 12 kilometers. Azadpur. Kamlanagar. Timarpur. Apart from the shopping places? Apart from the housing places? Vidhan Sabha. 10 to 12, that's like 5. Kashmiri Gate, okay. Pulbangash, Majnuka Tila, Sanjay Gandhi Transport Area, the other communities nearby, the local slums, Sanjay Basti, Buradi, the dumping grounds, yeah, where there is a gender resource center, Adarsh Nagar. So there are a lot of areas around the campus. Now here I'll make a distinction between what is a campus radio and what is a community radio. Initially in '92, when the government decided that airwaves are not the prerogative of the government and people have power on it, that is when they introduced the concept of community radio, which was to demystify technology. As to, if I have a radio station, it's open to everybody within that area. Why within that area? Because it would act as a tool of local change in a very organized manner. So it would have shows projecting the felt needs of the people from the areas within and around the community radio station. Now, when it happens, and the frequency mostly assigned to the radio station is 90.4 megahertz, mostly. In Delhi, it's that. So, the Delhi University Community Radio operates from the School of Open Learning, and it's in the main library building. Now, and we do a lot of shows to do with a lot of social issues, social causes, and women coming, mobilization is happening. We also give internships to students from the university who can come learn how to narrowcast. And a lot of people from there use it as a springboard to go to AIR or other places. So it's empowering people with their skills and everything, apart from being a very boring concept of only social change. So now what happens is, how do you use debate? Okay, so my presentation was called, I did not know until now, that it's called Science Debates. So why is it called Science Debates? Because I was a producer for a project called Planet Earth from the Directorate of Science and Technology. This was something to do with Vision 2020, if somebody's aware. So the concept was that you would use topics which are only scientific in nature, science-based topics. And then you would use debating as a tool at the radio station to communicate. So what happens when you shift the debating from air-conditioned rooms to a boring studio with white walls? Now you need some radio skills, you need a script, you have to prepare. You need to be compatible with the partner, and you cannot just interject between and raise a point and say, yes, I win. And there's no money involved, there's no cash prize. But because it was with this project, there was a little bit of honorarium given. And that is why it's called Science Debates, because it was a very organized way from the ministry to transcend boundaries of debating and other forms of effective communication. So what happens? There's a topic that is given, and we decide the topic based on, like, we've had topic to do with, the nuclear power. Now, what you're going to present as matter would really depend and would change as to what one has to speak at this podium. Because you're talking about, like this gentleman raised the point of wage laborers, you're talking about the informal sector also. You're talking about a lot of people. And the trick with the radio is the moment you're bored, you switch the channel. Okay, and it's for 15 minutes. You need to hold the audience, and you cannot make it possibly any boring or to any extent make it like a lecture or something. Now what works is that besides the regular formats of shows and features that we have, which is one person speaking, or maybe a group discussion, which is also quite interactive, and an anchor speaking, it becomes very boring if the same person is talking about the same topic again and again and again, and you're actually going to the point of professing and preaching, which is where the problem can happen. The debate thing, what it does, it makes the interaction quite interesting. It gives both the points. So the speaker is the audience is the decision maker, right? So there is a manifestation of power that is given to them to decide, to take their decisions, and they take it themselves. And how does that happen? Because I'm going to present the paksh, the for, and the against, the vipaksh. And then what happens? We're debating, we're discussing, we're debating, we're discussing, and then we end the debate. And this is, I remember that I had a t-shirt, a debating t-shirt, and it said, what is a debate? And the third point was verbal fisticuffs. Right? People have that t-shirt? Okay. So I'm like, oh, it's not really a fisticuff here. Okay, so you have to transcend these boundaries of fisticuffness to making debate as a medium, as a catalyst for social change. Now, what is the problem that happens when you put the university level mainstream debating from this debating world into a very unconventional, localized form of development communication? First of all, the language in which the debate is to be conversed is Hindi, and a lot of problem arises, okay, because we felt this. Because a lot of debaters are quite well versed while speaking in a particular language, and when it comes to breaking it down, especially science debates, which would have a lot of jargonized technical terms, right? Now that is where the problem comes. So that is why it has to be rehearsed, it has to be organized, and you don't get so much of time in the studio because it's jam-packed. So you have to be very on your feet and to get your script tested again and again, and a lot of things that happen. And then eventually you get 15 minutes to do the recording, or half an hour, or if you're lucky 1 hour. Then you have to take retakes and retakes, and then you have to edit, and then it gets packaged, and then it's there on the air, and you don't even listen to it because you don't even figure out, you don't even get to know when it's coming. Now what really happens, why can't people listen to it, is because though the area is 10 to 12 kilometers, but we're all aware of the Commonwealth Games, the high-rise buildings, the disturbance in the air, the frequency. So a lot of times if you're at D School, Delhi School of Economics, and you're sort of tuning in, so you might have problems from the phone, there might be disturbance. So you have to also have a lot of patience and tolerance to sustain what you've recorded and just gather people to listen to it. Because the whole point was that there are some speakers installed at the university, which I am not really sure what people have seen, white color speakers, where the radio is sort of transmitted. And this radio is for 8 hours and 2 hours live. So it starts at 8 in the morning, then it ends at 1, then starts at 2 again, and then it ends at 7. So now this is a very jam-packed time at the university. We're busy with the chai and cigarettes and everything else apart from, tuning into radio. That's your community radio. But the point is that if you do get involved and you do move beyond the boundaries of cash money and contesting and winning titles and everything, and it can also be in different colleges coming together and talking about it, you transcend boundaries. You transcend these class hierarchies, because debating has become a prerogative of a few. All these, we're all privileged, public school backgrounds, English, and I don't know what all. But you have to a lot of deconstruction is required when it comes to, breaking such a complex topic and breaking it down to such local terms that the catch is that even a rickshawala, an autowala, a university professor, a lady in the household, when she's waiting for her son to come back and she's making food, it would be interesting. And which is why you have to localize the topics to the recurrent, to the felt needs, to the immediate of the community around you. And which is what makes it a catalyst of social change, and that is how you transcend debate from the debating world to a non-debating world, and which is why it's called to be a debater, to be or not to be a debater in a non-debating world. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That was interesting and inspiring. We have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions if you want to. A nice big discussion. The floor is yours to manage.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious as to, so you did the science program. Are there plans to maybe do other subjects
yes.
as well, like other kinds of debates? Or
It's time because there was an honorarium involved.
Okay.
So what happens when you actually go to debaters and you say, please come, like, what am I going to get? What is listenership?
Is that, I'm not familiar with the debating scene.
Yeah, so
too much.
a lot of times, because what happens that the university and the level of debates and the exposure to the debating environment that any debater gets and the perks attached to it are quite incentivized, and then, debating in a way becomes very functionalist. You forget the essence of debating, but you're there to represent college. You have to be there because somebody's sick and you're a backup, or you have to be there because, you want to launch a debating career, or you want, a particular certificate, or it becomes living to the name and the legacy. It transcends. It doesn't start like that, but then it ends like that, okay, with that. Now, that is extraordinary. This is quite ordinary. You won't even get recognized. People would laugh at you that, because it requires a lot of preparation. And the college environment is such that they don't even get time for mocks, because the classes are there and you're preparing. So you really need to pull out time from the ordinary life that you're living and do something. It started with science debates only because there was an honorarium given. So people would come and they would actually make efforts because it is breaking the conventional debating style. The script, writing a script is tedious. And 15 minutes, as I said, there's nothing to distract you. It's only your voice. It has to be very interactive. You cannot overlap voice. It has to be a very organized, pre-fixed debate. And so a lot of debaters also walked out that, we don't get the fun in debating. What's debate all about? But that is when they have to understand that this is a particular form of debating that we're talking about. You have to transcend it from the functionalist view to a very dialectic approach. So which is why. And we are sort of encouraging people, if only they turn up.
Right. So did you have any, sorry, follow-up question.
No.
That's okay. Were you able to talk to anyone who heard the science debates, and did you get any kind of sort of feedback from them, and what did they think?
We did have this thing. By the end of the feature, we would announce that people can sort of talk to us and all. So there have been people. In fact, the most surprising thing is that the maximum students in Delhi University are enrolled in the School of Open Learning. Okay, now what happens really that these people tune into the radio for other reasons, like counseling, okay, talking to an expert. Now they do not know the time. So by chance they heard this debate, okay, I'm just trying to be the height of sarcasm here, but they called us, okay, they said that, okay, you talked about this thing, and we would like, because that also helps them in the curriculum somewhere, right? So if we could do, and can we be a part of it? So there were a lot of students who came from very unconventional places which do not have debating societies, because you all have formalized debating societies, you get enrolled, you have the extracurricular activity quota, you're there, you're operating, and then you leave as a president. Okay, that's like the ideal dream. But here, you might be just a no one. But you're like the little hero, but you're not like the hero who's winning the MUN probably or something, and you're like a Facebook photo. No, it's not a Facebook photo. So, yeah.
So basically, this local community radio station is a very interesting concept. But what are the costs and the technical know-how involved to set up something?
Yeah. See, the thing is that all over India, the technical unit that gives the infrastructure is SEMCA, Commonwealth Education something. So it's SEMCA, and they provide the technical support. The transmitter, the transmitter is 50 cc, which is very less in power. Now, what really happens? Why is 50 cc? Because that's a statutory rule that community radio stations would only be given. That is why when you're tuning to an FM channel, a private FM, it'll catch it on the highway, or maybe if the frequency is not. But here you actually have to be on 90.4, and you have to tune it on your mobile phones or the FM, the transmitter, the transistors that you have. And now the problem is that because, of course, of trees also, okay, and buildings, the construction, there's so much pollution in the air now, okay, traffic. The sound waves get disturbed. So a lot of times it's very hard to get absolute quality. But if the radio system that you're using gets sort of adjusted to it, maybe like it's like talking on the phone, you get a signal here, you don't get a signal here. So it's like that. So you have to do that little bit of manual setting if only you're so inclined to, because it requires more than that. And this is the technical part. Then what happens that the All India Radio has certain guidelines for broadcasting, and very, very when it comes to copyrights, when it comes to the usage of language, not using anything which could be potentially derogatory. And there are certain things that you cannot use, like certain words, no, it's not allowed. So, which is something that when you come, so that, because you're catering to everybody here, in a very localized way. We don't want tomorrow a dharna outside the radio station, people like hitting us with stones. So, a lot of things like that. So, there are guidelines, a very organized thing. And which is why when you're debating, it has to be very, very crisp. The script has to be very much, it's checked.
Basically, what I was wondering about is what kind of costs are involved to set up something like that? I mean, how sustainable would that be?
Okay, how sustainable would that be? See, community radios have been sustainable from '92. It's been a while. And what has happened that initially they were only given to educational institutions. So you had Anna University, you had Bangalore, you all these places, even Jamia, IMC and all, they all were given. And now recently, with this whole NGOization of the Indian economy, a lot of community radios are given to NGOs. So you have within the borders Manav Rachna, you have Radio Sync Media, all these Gurgaon, Faridabad, Radio Mewat and all. So because there are certain technicalities as to how an NGO gets it. It's a procedure you apply. This radio station was given to the university. The costs involved are minimal. It could be up to 2 lakhs maybe, the most basic. But it really depends as to how the cost is being organized. As you see here, partial costs were bared by the Delhi University. And the studio construction, we did not really have to invest in a separate place for infrastructure because there's a library building. But to build a studio, now what level of studio are you building? Like NGOs, they have some other projects running, so they can get parallel funding. But it's a very basic cost, but the procedure to follow the protocols, because again, if I have a radio station here, you possibly cannot have a radio station here, because the frequency is taken by this radio station, whether it's working or not. Okay, so which is why it has to be very strategically placed on the map, and then it's allotted, and it's like capturing all the airwaves, So there are a lot of procedures involved. The cost is not much.
Just two things. Can you just tell us something about what kind of response you received, if any, and whether students demanded something more for it to grow? Second thing is, this might seem a little far-fetched, but did you try an approach or alternative? Are there any organizations that do this in the main radio channels which have more outreach and which probably have a larger frequency?
So the first question is the feedback. Now the thing is that we do have feedback. If you listen to it, it's a very organized way of feedback. But unfortunately, the feedback is only to do with their felt need. So if somebody has a problem in that area, the person is going to talk about it. The blind school, what happens a lot of times, we have a lot of storytelling. So a lot of people from the blind school, they call us and they say that आपने जो वो कहानी पढ़ी थी, वो बहुत अच्छी थी, उसको फिर से पढ़ाइए. And we have participation from various kind of agencies and groups and NGOs when talking about networking. The thing with NGOs is that I am a master's in social work. So the thing with NGOs is that only when the program is to do with their funded project or something that they're catering to and some bit of publicity, I should not say that, but only then can you do the show. So the deal that you strike with NGOs is that we are not going to give you a name. So a lot of NGOs are like, then why are we going to do the show? So then we're going to think of a way and then we're going to say that, okay, so we're going to say, so this thing was organized in participation with so and so NGO. That's it. Or we're going to say, ye program is NGO ke saujanya se hai. That's it. Pretty much about it, period. So now, when you talk about debating with the NGO, that would mean them deconstructing the format that they've already come with and then talking to them in a way that they would probably take time to understand. And the staff at the radio station would not be that much of time to sort of write guided scripts for everybody. Because the workload is a lot and the staff is very little because they work in shifts. So which is why we were encouraging the university level where they're already in an organized structure of debating. So that we could just sort of alter a little bit of style and then sort of deconstruct and try to tell them to sort of condense the complicacies of ideas into a very local way familiar to everybody and then sort of communicate. So which is why debating, we restricted it to the university students so that at least they would skip the stage of undergoing a training in debating. So.
Is there any recorded tapes of
of the debates that have already happened.
Yes,
Would you be open to the idea of putting them over the internet?
We
maybe
only
sharing it
on
with
the
others?
internet. We do not really open the School of Open Learning website, do we? Why should we? I mean, we are into colleges and, our School of Open Learning. Oh my God, are you in School of Open Learning? Did you not score well? I mean, that is the imagined reality that we have to, deal with. I mean, that is the imagined reality that we construct for us, for other students who are probably not enrolled in the institutions that we are. I mean, there could be so many other reasons. So we are there, and then it gets shifted because there's not much space on the SOL website. So weekly there are updates of the shows, some selected shows. I thought that I'll bring the recording and I'll play it here, but then I could have only played it for 5 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes would have gone to the signature tune. Okay, and by the time it was started, you're like, oh, is this what you're talking about? Because till the time it doesn't end, you don't get across the point. Because the point is made at the end when you guys decide, okay, what is the universal truth that we are seeking out of it, and you decide for yourselves. So that exercise would not have been possible had it been a half an hour workshop. You could have done that. But yes, they're available. And if at all somebody wants to, because there's some copyright issue, okay, so the recordings are not given loosely, but they are made available to people like in debating circuits. So we've had this thing, the station manager, that we give the recording to the particular speaker who had come, so that the speaker could use it as a refresher training for fellow debaters in a mock. So they could sort of use it and say that, okay, this is how we do it, let's do it. And also we give certificates.
We have time, maybe one more question. Have you done any work to try and replicate this at other universities?
Well, because I've been working with Delhi University Community Radio, I was here. But AIR, a lot of local stations are there with AIR, and this is not a very unconventional form of a recording feature. It has been there, but it's just that with time, I mean time and space का अगर हम argument with the argument of time and space, I mean this way is sort of evaporating because it really requires a lot of effort to structure it, just to sort of make your speech compatible, which is why the common radio formats that you see is interview or group discussion. Because a lot of preparation is not required. If you're well versed with a topic or a subject, with an answer guiding you, you can just do it. So, which is
So, but don't you think that you could maybe do, like, if you did have a topic where you did have speakers who were well versed and who had done their research beforehand, do you think it would be possible to do something that wasn't as scripted?
Yes,
and as, that's a little bit more like off the cuff and, or impromptu?
The thing is, why it can't be off the cuff is that if at all, I mean, we could always edit later, I mean, there's certain words and all, but if you're established as a person who's well versed with the aesthetics of sound, the radio broadcasting, of course you can do it. Like when we speak on the radio, we don't use a script, I mean, a lot. Okay, but then you have to be quite well versed. So if you reach that level with the recording show, it's not that there's a judge, come on, you decide for yourself. It's not really possible. Because what happens when two people are speaking, you need to know where to pause. Because there cannot be a sound overlap. So you cannot interject. Like if you're speaking, I can't do this, what I just did.
So the technology maybe, or like not the technology, the engineering isn't quite there to do something like that.
The engineering of understanding the aesthetics of sound.
Right.
If you do understand that, you can go impromptu, but then it has to still be quite a speech that is manufactured.
And so people who come in who don't have that
like
background and experience, who maybe are experts in the topic, but not in the...
But not radio skills.
Yes,
because that is where, I mean, I won't call it a limitation, but it's just like polishing. So that is why we were focusing on the debating societies already established, because they have the aesthetics of debate. You can always research on a topic. But the radio part, so we do about. And the problem is that if at all somebody wants to do it, it means that coming to the radio station quite a bit. You just paid once. So, and then you have to have an organized time. Somebody comes, somebody doesn't. And then, everything, because, you can only work with someone in the radio station when the someone is free. So, there's a lot of dynamics involved.
Just one question. Firstly, how many people are involved in this? And secondly, how do you get people involved? Like, is this some selection process, or do you call people who you No, really.
So involved in the debate or like the radio?
No, entire
Entire radio. Now the thing is that there is a formal procedure of becoming an anchor. There are auditions held and the committees formed and everything. Plus, like how I got employed, I was a volunteer there. When I was at the Delhi School of Social Work, I used to do shows from the community. So I was a volunteer. Anybody can go there. Anybody, irrespective of your background. Irrespective of your background. And you have, because the whole ideology behind the community radio was to demystify technology and give power to people as to, approaching technology. Because how technology becomes such a, bold class, hierarchized thing only in the hands of a few. Okay? So, but to officially be employed there and be on a payroll basically, so there's a procedure, and then there are options for internship. So you do a 1-month internship. If you learn well, you put on the production. If you're not well versed with the anchoring part, the voice, you can do the production part, which is packaging, editing, okay, putting it up, and if you get through. And then what really happens, how the trend has been, that a lot of these people are, and radio works in shifts, all the radios. So they do a show, they get paid, they go to AIR, they do a show, they go to Gyanvani, they go to other community radio stations. Okay, there's some people who come on weekends, they do the recording. They record like Science Patrika or Sahitya Patrika, a literary magazine, and then they sort of repackage it, and then it's on air. So anybody can come, but on a payroll, if you have to be on a payroll, you have to follow certain modalities.
How many people?
A lot of people. I don't have the staff count, because what really happens is that this is all contract staff. Okay, so the thing with contract staff is you cannot really keep a count. So there are people who are employed somewhere else, they come. If somebody's free, they're working in BBC, they say, okay, we want to make a radio feature. Or like, come, make a radio feature. So they do it. So there is no tag, but there's a list of all the people who are on the immediate payroll, which means, because there's a schedule made for a month. So on that, it's at least 100. So for a month. But again, there are repeat shifts and all. So that's what I'm saying. It's not very exclusive, but there are a lot of people involved. I mean, if you go there, it's a small setup, but if you go to the payroll,
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to propose we take a short